Hey guys, we're back with Sador's Turning Pages. Our special guest today is Michelle, Lady Michelle, I'm sorry, Lady Michelle, for her book Pieces of Me. So we briefly discussed a little bit about Michelle before our break. And so now we're going to delve into her book. Um, so got my little stickies here and my little questions.
Help me.
So I believe, was it your publisher who wrote the forward for you?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So I was reading in it, and first I just want you to give the people a clear perspective of what domestic violence really
So domestic violence is when someone is their behavior, they're doing things to maintain power and control over you. So, but it is when they're continuously doing that. So abuse is not something that just that one time. Yeah, we know we have relationships and things like that where every day is not Sunday in a relationship, but when there's a continuation of them trying to get that power and control over you, doing things to harm you, they're the financial part of it, the emotional part of it, they're constantly tearing you down and all of those different things, and you can never do right for them, with them, or for them, or those type of behaviors. When there's continuous, then that is domestic abuse, and it is intimate partner when you say domestic abuse, but it also is family abuse as well.
is. Awesome. So in the book, each chapter is a piece of a puzzle. That's why the book is called Pieces of Me. So can you explain? First, I just want to tell everybody the five chapters are the five pieces of the puzzle are rejection and abandonment, protect and serve, no more permission, removing the mask. The fourth is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the last is silent, no more. So can you briefly just describe to us, explain to us the pieces of your puzzle? All briefly, briefly, not
So you can't briefly talk about this. That's why you have to get the book.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
but so one of the first part, which was the rejection and abandonment, it was very important after I wrote the letter to myself to talk about that particular age where the trauma was the worst, or I should say, this is so bad, but that traumatic thing that started that roller coaster, which was when I was 12 years old. And so it was important for me to write that letter to the 12-year-old Shelly because that's kind of where I stopped at. And so I continued to grow up, but I stayed where my trauma was. That's where all of my issues took root because we had to move from a place where I had grown up for years and had all of my friends and all of the things that felt good, even though there was a lot of abuse, physical abuse. I had my friends. I went to school, I had my friends. When I was home, I had my friends. So I was being uprooted from that and taken to states over, which was Florida. From Philadelphia to Florida, that's a long jump.
Mhm.
And so, of course, we didn't have the World Wide Web back then. We didn't have cell phones and things like that. So once I left, I lost touch with all of those people. And so that was important for me to write that letter and to let that 12-year-old Shelly know that things were going to get really rough after this move. And it was going to be really hard, but that she was going to make it. And I think that a lot of times that's what we don't do. We don't give that person who's going through abuse and going through trauma, we don't give them hope. We need that hope. We need to know because that abuser is telling them that there is no hope
Mhm.
and that no one loves them. No one cares about them like they do. And it's all a lie. It's all a mirage. And so that's what I had to do. So that was the beginning. I needed to do that. Rejection and abandonment because my abuser was my mother. We don't like to talk about that because no one really wants to say their mother is a bad mother. So we don't want to say anything bad about her, right? But I had to be truthful. Didn't take away from the fact that she did take care of me. She was a great provider. I never wanted for anything. But behind the scenes, behind the closed doors, there was so much physical and emotional abuse that it took years to get over that emotional abuse. I mean, I'm talking about I'm still there are some things that I'm still trying to come out of in my mind, in my head, some things I still hear her say. And so um, I had to talk about that because when I was born, rejection and abandonment was born right with me.
Wow.
And so we can you just imagine a baby coming through the birth canal and intertwined with that baby, this rejection and abandonment is all wrapped up inside of her, all around her. That's what happened to me. And so that's that. What was this? What was that one?
Protect and
Help
serve.
me. Help me here. She's trying to take me back too far. Okay. Protect and serve. My dad was a police officer. And the interesting part about that was he was protecting and serving the city of Philadelphia. He loved that job. That was his life. But you put that suit on to go out there and protect them, and never protected me. My father never hit me. He never said a bad word to me. He never rescued me from my mother. He left, but he didn't take me with him. And so I felt like he abused me as well because of the neglect. He went off and started a whole new family.
Was he abusive to your mom?
Very.
Okay.
So the two of them fought like
I
cats
was
and
gonna say they were
dogs.
abusive to each other.
They were horrible
Right.
to one another. They
Okay.
couldn't even stand in one room together.
Right.
But when I and I have to go back a little bit. When I wrote the book, I had to go back and I had to do research on my parents because I didn't even know where did all this come from.
Right.
And so going back and doing research on my parents, I found out that their life was plagued with toxic
Mm-hmm.
behaviors throughout their childhood.
Generational.
Right. So I'm like, oh God, okay, so let's go back to my grandparents and my great grandparents, and I'm not that far from the plantation. My great grandmother and great grandfather came off the plantation, so not that far.
Right.
So that abuse just came down and went down, generation after generation. And so that's all they knew. So when they didn't know how to love themselves, how could they teach me how to love myself?
Right. How could they love you?
How could they love
Show,
me?
well, show you love. They probably loved you, but how could they show you love?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I did the research and I talked a little bit about it in the book about my mom. I did more research on her than my father because of her being my primary abuser. But I found that so much happened to her when she was little. She did not know how to handle it. She didn't know what to do. She only knew how to fight because that's how she survived. So going through that, I said, all right, how do we handle this? So now I have to write about this. I have to help others, and then I also have to help the next generation. So that's what that was about. So going back to my mom and dad, yeah, they fought a lot. Um, of course, the police would never protect her, protect him, because yeah, the boys in blue, they're gonna protect one another. And after a while, he just kind of like stepped off because he was like, you know what, I don't even feel like fighting with her no more. So that means I gotta fight with her to get to you, Michelle, and I don't really want to deal with you either. And I'm not gonna talk too much in the book, so y'all gotta get the book because there's more stuff in here that I'm gonna do. But and then it was a one about masks. I learned how to wear all these different masks um, to protect myself. I had these different characteristics, and so I learned how to do that. And I had one to work. I had one when I was around the children. I had one growing up in school. I had one. I don't know, did I just say church already?
We didn't say it.
Okay,
We
church.
getting there too.
um, and work and all those just different masks because I had to cover up and I had to be somebody when I was here and when I was there because when you are an abuse victim, you don't want to let nobody know what's going on with you. So you learn how to, yeah. So.
I'm going back to your forward where your publisher, Holly Jennings says, this is something that can truly affect the rest of your life. How does domestic violence affect the rest of your life, if even when you come out of it? How does it affect the rest of your life?
Now, it can affect the rest of your life, but it's all in how you handle it too,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to let it take you down.
Right.
But it does affect the way you love. It affects the way you trust, whether or not you do trust people or
Mm-hmm.
not. It affects some people can't be around people anymore. Some people um, think that everybody's out to get them. Some people will push others away from them that are trying to get to love them because they think the other shoe is going to drop. So it does affect you. You hear the things that that person was saying about you in terms of you'll never be nothing, you are not worthy, you're dumb, you're stupid. And you can start to believe those things
Mm-hmm.
because they've been put into you for so many years. So, yeah, it can affect the rest of your life and how you maintain day-to-day activities.
You know, you want to comment? So how did it affect you in your relationships?
It did. I got into more toxic relationships. Um, Even when I left my husband, when I did leave him, I still got into another relationship that was toxic. This person did not hit me. This person did not um, say bad things to me, but he was a womanizer. So it was still a toxic relationship. And one of the things for me is because my father was a police officer and I did not get the love that I wanted from him and needed from him, I was always looking for people who were in some type of power.
Mm-hmm.
So the men that I,
Looking for your father.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it couldn't be just a Joe Smo. It had to be someone who was, so whether they were a preacher or in politics or another officer or something like that. It had to be something,
Mm-hmm.
So not getting healed before I went into another relationship that really, really affected me. I would tell anyone, it's okay. You can find love again, but you have to be healed.
Well, what was your concept of what affected and
Um,
how has it changed after you went through your healing process? How is it?
well, if
Okay.
they, because my mom, remember I told you she was a great provider, right? So then
Yes.
when I got married, my husband was a great provider, right? I don't cook. So for anybody, I don't cook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my way around the kitchen at all because I don't like it. So what happened was my mother did everything. She cooked, she cleaned the house. I mean, when I would come from school, dinner was done, dishes were washed, put away, clothes were washed and folded and put away, the floors were waxed, all those things. So all that domestic stuff was done. So when I got married, my husband did the same thing. So I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not paying attention to the other stuff. Even though he's acting just like my mom, he's just as abusive as she is. I went right for the same kind of person. Verbally abusive, physically abusive, emotionally abusive. So while they're doing all these things for me, they're telling me how I'm worth nothing. They're telling me how I'm dumb. I don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do this. You're stupid. You're this. You're that. Get out of the way. I can do it better than you. Because they're doing it, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. You go on over here on the side and sit down. Okay, go ahead and do it. So that's how that was affected me. But that's what I saw that was love.
At what point did you realize and figure out that this is not right? Everybody's not going through this. This is not what I'm supposed to be going through.
Whew. So I couldn't deal with that fighting. I was very like, okay, I can't do this. This is too much. And people say, oh, if somebody hit me, I'm gonna hit them back, and ain't no man gonna be hitting on me and all that. Listen, it's a lot to fight a man back. Let me tell you, you be all worn out and beat down, and it only gives them more fuel to hit you harder. um, I always, and I'm very transparent. Everybody knows when I talk about my domestic abuse journey, I'm very, very, very transparent. When I was the last time I fought my ex-husband, he actually, I have a bridge in the bottom of my mouth, a bridge. No one would know that. Just to look at me, they would think I'm okay. But that's how hard we were fighting. Like, who don't nobody want to go through that? Because these are the same people that will fight you. These men will fight you, and then want to have sex with you later on that night. Say, well, no. And then here's another thing they don't teach, that there is a such thing as marital rape. So if after you've beaten me down to the ground and I don't want to have sex with you and you take it, you have raped me, even though you're my husband. And no one is teaching that. So those are the things, and I said, that's enough. I just cannot do this anymore. I fought when I was home with my mom, and now I'm fighting here. I have to go. And so I took my little toddler and I left. And I had not looked back to go back to him. Now I got into other relationships, but I never let them get to that point.
I know we talked about the church. You talked about the church and in the mass, the chapter about the masking. How did the church help or hinder your process? So I read this book, honey.
All right, so let me just say for the record, I love my church. My pastor's Pastor Alice Martin. She didn't have anything to do with this part when I was writing that book. But the church didn't help me. You know why they didn't help me? Because they didn't know what was going on.
But you didn't say anything.
I didn't say not a word.
Did you say you masked?
And I got in and I got out. And I was actually working in the church. I've always been a worker when I got in. When I finally did get into church, I was a worker. And so they didn't know what was going on.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No,
The church didn't know because we know it was a mess. Okay. How did God, what was the process that, how did God help this process or um, maybe, I don't want to say you not being receptive to God or did he help, did you being in God help or hinder you? Let's just say that. I'm sure that it helped you, but you know, sometimes we can be in God and it's a deterrent because we're not doing what we're supposed to do.
that's it right there. I wasn't
Okay.
doing what I was supposed to do.
Okay.
But God never, when I say never left me, there were times when I know I shouldn't be here right now. He did not leave me. Even though I was being stiff necked, I was being hard headed.
Mhm.
And because he knew my journey and he knew what was going on and there were just things I didn't know and things that I just didn't take the time out to find out. So here's the thing, I'm kind of skip a little bit
Okay.
with God. He directed me to this therapist that I go to. And what happened is we always talk about the praying part, and you have to. We talk about God, you have to. You need God, you need prayer. But it wasn't until I went to this therapist who we were able to identify the things that were going on in my life that then I was able to do the praying the right way because now I knew exactly what I needed to ask for. God, I need your help with this. I need you to strengthen me in this area. I'm dealing with this. But before that, I didn't know. I was just going through the motions.
Going to church, masking it.
Yeah.
And you thought you was doing the right thing in God, but in actuality, it wasn't. It was you were in God. God might not have been hindering you, but you was hindering your process in God.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Right. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But meanwhile, he had this already planned from the time
he knew what he was doing.
I was born.
He knew what he was doing.
Right. He knew this was ordained.
Right.
Because once I started doing this, because I used to sit in church. Let me tell you, I used to sit there and I used to say, well, what's my purpose? They always talking about purpose. They always talking about this. They always talking about that.
Yeah.
And this person is becoming a preacher, and this person is going on to be that. And I would leave there all the time just feeling unfulfilled. Like, I'm just here. I'll get on this ministry and I'll get on that ministry and I'll do this. But I still wasn't feeling that that was my calling.
Wow.
Once I said yes to this one, I tell you, it started accelerating and it just went on. The organization came up, the book was released, it was so received. I could not believe my book signing was standing room only and people were outside.
Because you could never think about how many people maybe in the church dealing with the same thing. But because it's not talked about, people don't deal with it, people mask it, you know, and it's just like slipped under the rug and nobody knows.
Yeah, and no one's preaching about that abuse part. They even are starting now to talk more about the mental illness part of it.
Yeah.
That's great. I think we need to have those conversations. But they're still not really talking about the domestic violence part of it because, believe it or not, there are some preachers out there abusing. So we have a lot of first ladies who are sitting in the pews and they can't talk about it. They can't talk to anybody about it.
That would bring out what they going through.
And then you have where if you are in the church and you're being abused, they bring both of you in for counseling. And that's a no no. You can't bring her into counseling with
She's
the
definitely
husband.
not gonna open up.
With her abuser.
Right.
That can
So
be dangerous
yeah,
too.
so very dangerous.
Mhm.
And so because she's got to go back home
Yeah.
and she's going to get it.
Right.
Okay? So even people who come off the street, you have to have a eye and a mind and be in discernment and things like that. There's so many people that are going to be coming in that are going through actual domestic abuse, and it because it's not just physical.
Mhm.
We have to get out of that thinking that it's just
It's
physical.
physical. Mhm.
People are emotionally scarred. Emotionally scarred, the parts that you can't see, they going through it. They fighting those battles in their head every day. Somebody told them they're stupid. Somebody told them they're dumb.
Right.
Somebody told them no pregnant want you. So it gets you pregnant with 4 or 5 kids and then says nobody's gonna want you with all those kids. So you stay
Mhm.
because you think that. So
Um, so I want to take a break in a minute, so we can delve into publishing all the extra stuff before the show's up. Because we only got about 15 to 20 more minutes. But the last chapter of the book is called Silent No More, which is actually my favorite chapter, because it actually provides hope, healing, awareness, and it provides encouragement to anyone that's dealing with domestic violence. So I want to read this one paragraph because I think it's very insightful. It says, "This is not a woman's issue, as there are many children who are suffering in silence, and there are many men who too are abused by their spouses. This is not a black or white issue, as domestic violence has no preference. There is not a stature issue, as many in high places are also in abusive relationships slash marriages. This is not a gender issue, as many in whatever preferred relationship finds themselves in a domestic abusive situation. And this is not an attempt for fame nor for fortune, but it's a plea for help for those whose voices have been silenced. This is my fight and yours and theirs, and I will be silent no more." So I love the fact that you make people aware that there's not just one person that's abused. Women are not the only people in abusive relationships. But rather anyone could be technically a victim of domestic violence. And I want you to speak a little bit about the solid no more part.
okay, so silent no more. I love that when I talk about being silent no more because, like I said, for so long, many of us have suffered in silence. And we sat there and we thought that we could not speak because we didn't have a voice. Um, when I every time my voice was silenced, I thought, okay, nobody wants to hear what I have to say, and that's not true. People really, when I found that when you start to talk about it, people want to hear it. They want to be able to connect with you, and so yes, it's not an issue that is only for women. We have little boys. Remember the little boys in the house being abused, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna grow up to be the man. He can either be an abuser or he can get abused from a woman. So those things I wanted to make sure that I talked about those in the book. Also, you could be the CEO of a company. You don't have to be. People think that it's only someone who's coming from a home that they're uneducated or they're poor or something. That nope. Well educated women and men, all kinds from all over the world are being abused. So that's why we have to bring that hope and let people know that we're out here fighting this fight to end this. And how do we end it? By bringing awareness, by letting people know what is abuse, what are the signs of abuse, where can you go? There are resources out here that you can go to. Because you're not going to find these things on the commercial on TV. Now they will talk about shelter for the animals, but you're not going to see it ever a shelter commercial for domestic violence.
Wow.
So we have to, all of us who are advocates, have to get out there and we have to talk about it. We have to tell our communities, we have to tell our jobs, we have to tell our churches, we have to tell our families.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to talk about it in the family. Nobody wants to have that conversation. No one wants to have the taboo conversation. We have the uncle sitting at the Thanksgiving Day dinner table knowing that he's molesting the children in the room. in the family. But we invite him there all the time. Nobody talks about it. He's the elephant in the room. Abuse. So we as advocates have to do that, and that's the only way that people will be silent no more. Is if we open up that space, give people safe spaces, no judgment, no blaming the victim. We have to get out of that. Well, she shouldn't have worn that. Well, she shouldn't have. Well, she stayed too long. Well, why she still stay with him? Well, she knew how he was before she got there.
Wow.
Victim blaming.
Hmm.
She's dumb. Could have been me. She's never gonna talk. She's sitting right in the room listening to you all talk about somebody else, and she's going through it too. And she's like, I couldn't tell them what I'm going through.
Wow. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back with pieces of me and Lady Michelle.